Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hello, everybody. How are you? If you're in Portland, Oregon, I already know how you are. If it's any consolation to you all out there, here on the corner in the Northeast, Philadelphia is where we're located. It's hotter than hell here too. So it's miserable all over, but it is the Behavioral Corner. And what we do is we hang here. Interesting people come by, coming out of the bodega, getting the car washed, whatever. And often, as luck would have it, they have something really cool to tell us about behavioral health. And you know what that is at this point. Behavioral health is everything we do, decisions we make that affect our emotions and our physical well-being. So we're going to take a look today at something we often do. We often take a look at constituent groups who are underserved by the healthcare system across the board, most notably people of color, minority communities, women also suffer from a lack of really quality healthcare. But there's another group we want to talk about, and it's a particularly a good moment for that. We're talking about musicians and artists, because as mercifully this plague recedes, if that's the case, those people they're out now. This is going to be a summer of live music like you have never seen. So the musicians are out on the road again. Artists are out in the world. They enrich our lives, and all of that is to the good. The problem, and it's a problem of long standing, is that they are underserved when it comes to their mental, often emotional, and certainly physical health care. To that end, here on the corner today is Andy Hurwitz. Andy is, and I'll give you the textbook resume. He's an attorney, a husband, a father, and an all-around good guy who, as you can see, just returned, he claims, from the beach. I think he probably just returned from the beauty parlor, but that's neither here nor there. Andy made his bones in the entertainment industry. That's how I met him. We're old pals as well. And what characterizes everything he's ever done is a deep commitment to whatever it is he's doing, particularly the broader community. The guy likes to give back. Andy Hurwitz is a good guy. Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. Great to see you.
I'm sorry to pull you off the beach, but you know.
Hey, I feel it's funny when you gave that intro. I was like, oh yeah, I read about the fact that it was hot in a lot of places.
Great. That's it. Rub it in.
Right.
As I mentioned, Andy is an old pal of mine from the entertainment business nominally, and just hanging. And he really does. He has a rep for, let's do this. This would be a cool idea. Let's do that. We're going to talk a little bit maybe down the road about an initiative he just got some ink on concerning the Philadelphia school system. It's a really cool thing they're doing there. Here's the example for you. He is the founder of a nonprofit called 30 Amp Circuit. It's a great idea. When I first saw this, I thought, wow, this is cool. It's dedicated to the health, wellness, and the professional needs of musicians and artists. So we're going to talk about that in depth. Andy, yeah, it's hot here. The idea that you would act like it's not hot where you are is wrong.
Yeah, well, it's the ups and downs of life, and you gotta enjoy. It's not gonna last. I'm sure I'll be sweating real soon. Just today, I'm not.
Well, good for you. Here's the deal. You agree that this is going to be a summer of live music like we have never seen. I mean, there's going to be bands playing everywhere, right?
Yeah, there was an article that Dan DeLuca wrote in the Inquirer last week that featured our friend Chris Perla at the Ardmore Music Hall, and the quote was something like, "Every band that ever wants to tour this summer." So,
I don't think you'll be able to go to a band shell in some small town in New England, or your local bar, or big outdoor arenas where there's not going to be live music. The demand is enormous. Somebody characterized it as the roaring 20s in terms of entertainment. Not so well and good. These people have, really been cut off from their livelihood. But their problems are going to be out there on the road with them. Musicians and artists as well. They don't have, generally speaking, 401ks. They don't have company benefits. And so their health suffers. Well, why did that occur to you? I mean, you're not a working musician, but you know them. You must hear a lot of stories about how bad it is.
Well, I mean, I'm not a working musician, but I feel like anyone at my level at this point in the music business, which I don't even know what that means anymore, music business, but we're all sort of in the same blue collar boat. And um, it's profoundly doubled with musicians, like you said, that are going to be touring and roaring it up in the 20s all over the place because there's on the one hand lack of healthcare, on the other hand is the inability to make appointments in advance to meet with your dentist, your doctor, and your psychiatrist and keep any sort of semblance. And it's interesting because we figured this out a while ago. And what happened during the pandemic is I think all of this was exposed in a way that was super profound, and the ball is rolling towards reform. And not, we're just one of many, many nonprofits that are working towards changing this. And a big part of the change is just specifically with mental health, which you see in sports as well, is a lot of people are just coming out, and during the COVID, especially, a lot of people are like, I'm depressed. I was always anxious. I take, medication. And when the lockdown hit and all these musicians had nothing to do but think, and artists, they were stuck in their house, not moving for the first time in their lives, a lot of them. So it was heavy, but I think that it was something that everyone was forced to deal with, and it was almost impossible not to deal with. So I remain pretty optimistic about all of it. And I feel like we were just, I don't want to say right place, right time, but it's a great opportunity for any organization that's helping any humans with just sort of health and mental wellness and just trying to get by in this world. So
yeah, well, I have to touch upon a couple of the I guess the more obvious things. I'm sort of in the position of being the guy that asks the dumb questions, so I will. Do we make too? I mean, music is fun. Live concerts are enjoyable. Are they important? Are they necessary?
Well, now they absolutely are for artists and their livelihood, because as you know, it used to be you could at least make money off of record sales and publishing, and that's diminished significantly. It's one of those catch-22s. Like, yeah, it's easier to be in the music business today than it once was, but it's also harder to make a living. So musicians absolutely have to play live to earn a living.
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary for us? I don't know. I just went to a concert, which I was thinking it should be the wave of the future. There's a bunch of upstart businesses that happened during the COVID, live stream inspired. And, a bunch of friends, it was 20 friends, each chipped in $50 to have Swift Technique. They're not the biggest band in the world, but they're a great professional band, and they played in my friend's backyard, and there was 40 people there, and it was amazing. It was so great. And we were all sort of like, so when you say, is live music necessary for musicians? It is. And for young people, it is. And they don't care about any of this. But for me, I think I'm going to start taking music or entertainment on a different level now. I come out of it in a different space. Like, I can't foresee me and my old ass fucking smushing, and sorry if I curse, like me and myself. I'm little. I used to push my way to the front and ride the rail up to the Snoop Dogg concert a couple months before the pandemic. So I don't really want to be doing that anymore. So it'll be interesting to see, Steve. But yeah, live music and live entertainment is absolutely necessary now more than ever, especially when you have people, like you said, lined up and ready to pay for it.
Yeah, which is already a good thing. So let's talk about 30 amp. Where did the idea for 30 amp circuit come from? Who's involved in that?
Well, I was working with Ivan Neville in New Orleans, and we were talking about health and wellness of musicians, and he was telling me story, I don't want to say before any of this came in vogue, but health and wellness in general is a burgeoning, thus, you have a podcast, it's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And he shared with me, he turned me on to this place called the New Orleans Musicians Clinic. And it's been around since 1973. And it is this gorgeous, huge home and working office facility in New Orleans with incredible people there. And Ivan introduced me saying that they basically saved his life because they were available for free. They took, healthcare when he had an illness that he couldn't afford to deal with long ago. Not only did they deal with his physical illnesses, they forged a relationship with LSU Hospital, but also the mental side too. And at the end of the 3 days, New Orleans people they were like, hey, Andy, you should start one in Philly, because I'm the Philly, like you, I'm Philly, Philly. And so, they're like, you should start one, because there is an organization, there is a bigger organization, sort of a group. I don't remember the acronym, but there's a lot of organizations that are based locally to help their communities. There's great in Seattle, it's called Smash. There's the Memphis musicians, or every community should have one, and we didn't. So that inspired me to start one, and it was a nice organic process that I wasn't intending it to be front and center in my life. But again, when the pandemic hit, it changed a lot of things, and so we pivoted a little bit, and now here we are with more attention to it, because we've had a lot more opportunity to. We were the first ones in to do we did a 3-day virtual music festival, Love from Philly, which was incredible. Yep. It really literally brought the city together for 3 days, because there was nothing else to do. But a dance event, and as a lifelong music industry person, I'm seeing really the great opportunities that you can create for artists specifically, and for the city with a nonprofit. And sort of the music business is filled with horror stories of, shady people, shady deals. But once I'm like, look, I'm not Andy Hurwitz lawyer. I'm not Andy Hurwitz, record label guy. I'm just Andy Hurwitz trying to do a good deed. And the good deed goes full circle. So that's how it started. And the synergy created by the people, places, and things helped sort of expedite it.
Well, yeah, I remember when this predates, you're right, the pandemic, because I remember thinking, wow, this is going to be in my wheelhouse. This is what we talk about. Well, he's just focused it on these people. And again, I'm back to this thing about artists and musicians who are not thought of in the same breath when you talk about underserved communities.
Not only that, Steve, it's so depressing. I won't say who the person is, because he's a great guy. He's the first guy you would think, as a business person, a leader in Philadelphia with a great brand and a great business, that he'd be the first person that would give money to some of these visions, because that remains part of the challenge. He was just like, oh no, I don't give to the arts. And he was so matter of fact about it. He's like, Andy, that's why the arts are so underserved, is because people like me, it doesn't resonate. He's like, I'd rather help somebody, a sick person. And that's probably the problem, is, that's where the mentality is. And that's why it's always been that way. I never really thought about it before, because you and I are so, such a part of our lives. But to other people, they're just like, musician or cancer thin, musician or right. Africa person, So it's tough. But I think clear though, at the pandemic, people started being like, oh, we miss musicians, And
exactly. And, it is certainly is understandable on one level, because you support the arts means subscribe to the Philadelphia Orchestra, or
right.
donate to the Philadelphia Museum, or something like that. It's not like, no, these people need dental work.
Yeah.
They have root canal they need done. So, and that's underserved. We're going to get into the mental component of that, as with substance abuse in particular, a big number here. But I know that one of the services provided by 30 amp is something, and this is just a great idea. And you mentioned Backstage Clinic. Tell us about Backstage Clinic.
So as we're discussing here, musicians and artists in general are in need of healthcare, blah, blah, blah. You can fill in the blanks.
Yep. I want to take you through these. I'm going to take you through these because
no. But everybody knows. There's all these. So yes, we all know that. But it became a question that was part of a grant. Like, it was sort of like a Shark Tank thing, where they asked you live instead of filling out the paperwork, and they're like, okay, we get it, but. So the big question became, well, where do you find these? In New Orleans, at the New Orleans Musicians Clinic, the musicians grow on trees. But in Philadelphia, where are all these artists? And nationally, how do you find these underserved people? And I was like, oh, I know where they all are.
Right.
And I was like, I know where they are. I know how to find them. They're at festivals. That's, become every art, no matter big, small, medium. I bet your town has a festival or had one this summer. Lord knows Narberth has a music festival. There's the Wayne Music Festival. It's just crazy. So I said that, artists are at festivals, and, if you haven't had the pleasure and pain of being involved working at a festival, there's a lot of downtime and you're usually stuck there. An artist will usually get out on the road, play a gig at the Fillmore, and then unload and either, and then get the heck out on the bus and go to the next tour. But at a festival, everyone's back there, and festivals have been catering to artists, making that backstage experience more fun. So health and wellness for musicians, they're at festivals. The concept was set up a backstage clinic, which is really what it sounds like. We operate with 2 mobile tent, what are those trailers? When you go to a set or a festival, the trailers that serve as the green room. We have 2 trailers and we set out a chill out zone. And in a nutshell, we have 4 specific services that we have revolving around piss and blood. And they're just basic things that you can get. Like you just get a needle prick in your finger, and we can send you these results for everything from your cholesterol level to pre-cancer screenings, the whole lit. And then the piss is revealing. And we had this deal with local, what are they called? The hospital where you get your tests. What's that? LabCorp.
Okay. Yep.
It's crazy that LabCorp set it up so that you can piss and blood and bleed at these festivals anywhere in the country, and FedEx picks it up and sends it to LabCorp. It's competitive. Like they bid on it. They're like, oh, we'll hook you because that's mass test. So the concept is as simple as that, but on a more built out, scaled out level. Backstage Clinic. Well, I should tell you that Backstage Clinic was set to really blow up the summer of the COVID. We had deals in place with Live Nation and AEG and Pete Shapiro, who does Brooklyn Bowl. We were going to roll out, and we won a pretty big grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to do this Backstage Clinic. And at this point, when I started reaching out, I have one of our board members, one of my partners in all this. I should say, when I started this, I recruited 2 people. One was Ari Grice, who's a great doctor at Jefferson and Rothman, to get through to that world. And I brought him back to New Orleans with me, and they introduced him to all the medical people, and he asked all those right questions. And the other person is Keith Scriven, who eventually became the executive director. But we were going to launch with, once we started telling people about it, doctors are like, yo, I'll pay you to be backstage at the Dead show to potentially take piss and blood from anybody that, these are doctors that have, what are you going to give a doctor who has all the money in the world? This is an experience that we found resonated really well. So I started collecting for, we had a core, and then we were building out. So a core, the piss and blood tests, strict tests. We didn't want to, we experimented with this thing. We didn't want to take too much time. You come in, you come out, but then there's the extended services that were super cool, dental, vision. And we had sponsors, so even vision isn't a big deal, but you get your eyes checked, and there's a company that sends you the glasses that you pick out. So that's the gist. It's like a boot camp for health and wellness, a mini hospital, mini MASH unit for those viewers that are old enough to remember the TV show. I did imagine a little MASH setup, and that's what.
Hey, here's how old I am. The last time I saw anything that resembled a medical facility in operation at a concert was in Woodstock,
right?
Where there was never a greater need for a place like that.
Well,
a lot of people were stressed out that day. Anyway, so all right, so the blood thing is amazing that LabCorp would just swoop in and take it away from the other laboratory, because it's such a lucrative thing, I guess. So they get that's the early warning signs. Hey, you may have borderline diabetes or something. Take care of that. You also have some social workers available, right?
Yeah, the social workers do the simplest task of helping people work through. Even me, I didn't know about any of this when I became an independent contractor. This applies to everybody. There's way more than Obamacare, but first of all, there is Obamacare, and it sounds, it sounds threatening to people, but we have social workers on hand to simply walk people through that process. In addition to, there are things and services available, and even insurance, like catastrophic health insurance is something that you wouldn't think about, but as a musician, it's it's like $150 a year. But if you get in a car, God forbid, so the social workers are there to sort of provide information, and again, just be heads to talk to. We find that this is a super young program. We beta tested it here at Philly with the Philly Music Festival, and we found that a lot of times people just want to talk, and maybe that ties into the mental health thing as well. We'd have all these services ready to go, and people we really found like one guy was like, man, I don't really see a doctor. I go to CVS where they have the tests, blah, 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 but I go every month. And the doctors were like, well, that's kind of cool. If you're going there and so sometimes just to have that open. So
my personal note, my daughter got her degree in social work. She got an advanced degree in social work. But after a couple of years or so, you begin. Social workers are really amazing people. I mean, you're right. People don't understand what social workers do. They fill out the forms, the endless forms that you look at and you go, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. They know how to do that.
Now more than ever.
Yeah, they spend their days trying to get working moms a refrigerator because their old one broke. I mean, they're amazing people.
But a lot of there they are. Social workers trying to get government grants from the COVID, or I found a social worker that helped 30 Amp get a PPP loan. So big up to your daughter. Big up to all the people that are helping people. It's funny because Steve, it's like this. All of this that we're talking about. It's not like I'm not like awesome like your daughter. I'm just awesome like you. I'm just a regular schmo that feels like, man, it's pretty easy to do some help, do some good with what we have and feeling a need and doing it. But big up to all the people that really dedicate their life. There's so many people like
but you help them do that. Tell me about the Body and Soul Foundation. What is the Body and Soul Foundation? What are you doing there?
Well, that was like just a fancy marketing term. I know you're big on that, but we're trying to figure out. I don't even like hearing that name, but it's become so commercialized, the meditation and well, really mindfulness. We're huge on connecting those two things, and I'm going to change that body and soul. But we have wow, it's actually interesting because I'm a born again when it comes to I've been doing it for 15 years. It changed my life. And
meditation.
What's that?
Meditation.
Meditation, yeah. But I was taught by a guy that it turns out is just a guru, and he's right here in Bryn Mawr, right down the street. And he's like, when you figure out that meditation is really just a form of Buddhism, you have to know where it's coming from these days, because it's really the real teachers, like the Jubus from the 70s, like Jack Kornfeld and Mr. Goldstein and all those guys. Like, there's teachings that are proper, and now the self-help, the body and soul, like I just described, it's sort of being watered down. But with Gabriel Rocco, who's here, he started the Penn Mindfulness Center for Cancer. He started, really his do good was taking this mindfulness and teaching it to people that suffered from cancer, not just for the physical pains, but for the mental strain. And so we're working on something called mindfulness for artists. We're not the first, but I feel like we have a good approach to it. And that's where the body and soul that you asked about, that's where it comes from. Teaching people to meditate in a really simple way, because it's really not that hard, and providing alternative sort of homeopathic products within that range. We wanted to make sure that we were able to get sponsors like Lululemon on board. So I think that's where that name came from. But it's true, we feel like it's such a great opportunity to, for companies or whoever to, it's something you can hang your hat on, so to speak. So
we're hanging on the corner with Andy Hurwitz, old buddy, real pal, and he's the founder of the nonprofit we've been talking about, 30 Amp Circuit. Finally, this piece about the backstage clinic and the help you provide. That's the issue of substance abuse. I've had this discussion with several people now on the podcast and in other contexts about what happens when you take the drugs out of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, these people are sort of thought of as high risk. For some reason, artists and musicians are high risk at substance abuse. Are they coming to you? Are they looking for help?
They are, but thankfully, and here's where I can point anybody that's listening to a better organization than us. And people do come to us and will say, like I just described our mindfulness for artists, right? That's not suicidal, depressed artist programs. And for that, there's an amazing nonprofit called Backline, backline.org.
Oh, I know Backline, yeah.
And we have a broad mission statement, and I learned all about how to be a nonprofit in the last couple of years doing all this and what it means. And they have a very specific, it's mental wellness for musicians, period. And man, oh man, was there demand during the COVID. I mean, it was like in addition to being strapped financially, most artists were just screwed. Even rich artists were screwed and had to figure out solutions. And some were really noble, like Tedeschi Trucks. They mortgaged their whole world so they didn't have to take their staff off of payroll. For bigger artists, it's not just about So anyway. No income coupled with stuck at home and facing all these problems. Backline did an amazing job of creating during the COVID a Zoom like therapy session, like a group therapy that they had at 7:00 every night. Then they had meditation at 9, and so they also had artists speaking. People that you know of. And I think that helps so much when you're like, oh shit, look, it's that guy. He's depressed. How can he be depressed? Right. But so with drugs though, it's funny and not funny. I feel like drugs are like the people, I don't know, maybe I'm just not rolling I need to hang out with the right drug people. But, I think it's that opioid crisis that's really dipped into everybody's world. I think that's where you see it still. And I feel like the high flying, like, coke and blow, like I don't know, but it's all.
No, I know. I know what you mean, and what people don't understand is that that's a cliche. About the drugged out.
Alcoholism and the need to drink and do drugs is obvious. It's a tough life, and the grind of being an artist is super, super, super tough. There's also this other weird thing that I experience all the time in my own like left of center career is that, if you're just trying to be a person before you're a rock star, it's really tough, like to be an artist. Like it's challenging to just exist in America with the societal pressures on, like just how you live and what you can afford. People, there's a lot of pressure. Like young people get pressured from their parents who, I have 3 kids. I mean, I don't know. One of my best friends, Mark Brownstein, his son Zach is an incredible drummer. I mean, he's the best drummer. Like he's once in a generation, but like,
Right.
it's a tough path. So I understand the mental stress is so complicated.
My experience, though, in talking to a lot of people now, is that, and they've now risen up to mainstream awareness. There's a whole lot of sober entertainers, and they're not afraid to stand up and go, I used to be nuts and I was going to die. I don't do that anymore. Yep. And they're still making good art. They're still making great music.
Well, look, most famously, Trey from Phish. You have to say, like, Trey, absolutely. He just started his own house, a sober home for like during the COVID, he launched a program and a facility, a treatment center. So
Clapton has a place in the Caribbean that's very famous, Crossroads.
Right.
What's his name from Aerosmith? All of those guys. They're big.
I think you know what, as a person, like I've never been addicted to drugs, but I know what it's like to be addicted in ways, and I feel like there's a relief in the freedom of not having that shackle on you. And so people like Trey and Steven Tyler, I think it's inspiring because, especially Trey's fans who have him under a microscope, he sounds so much like he's incredibly much better. He sounds incredible sober. So maybe he's not having as much fun, but his art is peaking because it's clear and amazing. Steven Tyler too, to a certain extent, but Trey famously right now, his fans and everyone agrees that hand in hand with his new rebirth has been his sobriety. So,
well, you know what, we support anybody that can manage to do what they love to do and keep it all together, and that includes you, my friend, even though you are very humble. We love the idea of 30 amp circuit. We love the idea that not only will music be back and the troubadours on the road and the artists arting, but there will be people like you who are going to make it just a little easier for them, so that the rest of us can have our lives enriched by them.
Yeah.
Andy, it's been too long, bud. We got to hang.
Yeah, man. Anytime I get to hear your voice, Steve, it just makes me happy. What's your nickname? You need to there's the Velvet Fog. Wasn't that Mel Torme? I want to kind of take that. No one would know if you took Velvet Fog.
No, they wouldn't know what we were talking about.
Right.
No, most often in the day I was referred to him again or something like that. Yeah.
All right.
Him again. Anyway,
that's
thanks, bud.
A compliment.
I appreciate your time. Back to the beach. See you around.
See you backstage. Thank you.
Take care, man. Bye-bye. Rest of you, bye-bye as well. Catch you next time on
Every storm runs out of rain, according to the great Maya Angelou. Her words can remind us of one very simple truth, that storms do cross our paths, but they don't last forever. So the question remains, how do we ride out this storm of COVID-19 and all the other storms life may throw our way? Where do we turn when issues such as mental health or substance abuse begin to deeply affect our lives? Look to Retreat Behavioral Health. With a team of industry-leading experts, they work tirelessly to provide a compassionate, holistic, and affordable treatment. Call to learn more today. 855-802-6600. Retreat Behavioral Health, where healing happens.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.